Hello my fellow test takers, welcome back to my channel. So a while back I posted a how I got a 324 on my GRE exam video, and since a lot of you guys responded to that video saying that you want to know more about how I scored a 162 on the verbal reasoning section, you ask, I deliver. Today I'm here to share my tips and tricks on how to get a higher score on the GRE verbal section. My name is Sybil and I'm a fresh college graduate who spent the past 6 months applying to various master's programs. And recently I got an offer from my dream school, Imperial College London. So if you're someone who's on a similar path, or if you're someone interested in master's programs and business school, or just someone looking to ace your standardized tests such as GRE or TOEFL, make sure to subscribe to my channel so that we can stay connected and continue this conversation together. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's get straight into the questions that everyone dreads, the vocabulary questions. So this includes text completion questions and sentence equivalence questions. My first pro tip when it comes to GRE vocabulary is don't start extensively practicing vocabulary questions until you've memorized a good chunk of the GRE vocabulary. And I'm gonna tell you guys why. During the first few weeks of your studies, when you open up a prep book and start looking over vocabulary questions, a lot of the times you're gonna feel like you're reading gibberish because all of these vocabulary words you may have never seen or you don't know the accurate meaning of them yet. And what this does is it triggers this feeling of lack of self-confidence, or triggers this very scared emotion within you because you might start doubting your own level. And I'm here to tell you that you are definitely not the problem. GRE words are difficult. You're not going to use them in your everyday life, so it's normal for you to feel like they're highly unfamiliar. A better approach to the GRE vocabulary section is during the first week of your studies, take out your prep book and do around 10 questions for text completion and sentence equivalence questions. This is just for you to familiarize yourself with the structure of the test and also the question types you're going to be dealing with on the GRE. After you do that, close up your prep book and immediately go hit that vocabulary. So you want to first memorize a very good chunk of the GRE vocabulary, then go into your prep book and start doing the practice so that the practice questions actually make sense to you and it's actually helping you improve your level. Vocabulary is something that definitely takes time to accumulate, so be gentle with yourself. Make sure that you're giving yourself the time to study these words before, throwing yourself into the world of hard GRE vocabulary questions. Next, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how exactly I memorized huge amounts of GRE vocabulary efficiently. And the first tool I want to mention is something that I talked about in my last video as well, which is the Kaplan 500 GRE vocabulary words deck. I talked a little bit about this deck in a previous video, but today I want to detail to you guys how exactly I leveraged this tool and utilized it to maximize its effects. So I'm going to be introducing my own vocabulary memorization system, which is the 3-deck system. So while I was preparing for the GRE, there was always 3 vocabulary decks sitting on my desk. So the first one is the new deck, the second one is the review deck, and the last one is the familiar deck. So the new deck is obviously words that I do not know, new words I'm introducing to my vocabulary bank. The review deck has words that I've memorized before but need to review. And the familiar deck is words that I'm confident I already know well. So how the system worked was every single day I'd take 20 new words from the Kaplan deck and I'd start memorizing these words one by one, and once I was done I'd move these 20 words into the review deck. So the next day when I came back to my desk, the first thing I would do is I would take up the 20 words in the review deck and start reviewing them one by one to see how much I memorized from yesterday. And the ones that I successfully memorized, I'd move to the familiar deck, and the ones that I still struggled with, I leave in the review deck. Then I go to my Kaplan deck and grab another 20 words, which are the new words for the day. So this is how the system kind of cycled. Every single day I would learn 20 new words and I would review all of the words that I did not know well enough. And for the familiar deck, I kind of just went through it whenever I had extra time on my hands, maybe before bed, just as a little refresher for myself. So moving through the new deck, review deck, and the familiar deck really helped me make sure that I was grasping on to all of these 500 words provided by the Kaplan deck. While the Kaplan 500 was definitely a good foundation to have, after I memorized all the words, I definitely didn't feel like it was enough to ensure I was getting my target score of 160 on the verbal section. That's why I use Magoosh's 1000 vocabulary flashcard app to really boost and level up my vocabulary bank. If you've watched my previous GRE video, you would know that Magoosh played a huge part in helping me achieve my dream GRE score. It's one of the very few resources I chose to recommend in my previous video, so I'm super happy to be working with Magoosh on this video today. So Magoosh is an experienced test prep company who has helped millions of students ace their GRE exam. It's actually the only US test prep company that uses official GRE questions in their test prep content. This makes it the ultimate prep resource because it can really help you guys simulate the real test day conditions and help you guys ensure you're performing your best on official exam day. I also love how personalized the Magoosh study resource is. So let's say you really want to practice all of the questions you got wrong previously. With just a click of a button, Magoosh can help you call out all of these questions and start practicing immediately. You can also adjust the practice question difficulty levels according to your own needs. The customization options are truly endless. And Magoosh comes at an unbeatable price, being 1/4 the pricing of other study resources. So if you're someone looking to really boost your GRE score, definitely check out Magoosh because it's a fantastic resource. Make sure to use my code Sybil20 to get 20% off Magoosh GRE. Also, definitely download the free Magoosh 1000 vocabulary flashcard app because it will definitely improve your vocabulary bank. So once again, big thank you to Magoosh for supporting my channel. My next pro tip when it comes to memorizing vocabulary is always choose to memorize vocab out loud. Actively engaging with a word definitely helps your brain remember it better, and the auditory reinforcement is extremely important and effective as well. So let me show you guys with an example. A word you often see on the GRE is euphony, and this word means a sweet and pleasing sound. So when I first saw this word on my flashcards, I said it out loud like this: euphony, a very delicate, gentle, beautiful, pleasing sound. So this helped my brain strongly associate the sound with the word and what it looked like, so the next time it appeared on my test paper, I could immediately recall its meaning. It might sound a little weird, but I promise you it's effective, so try it when you're at home the next time you're studying your GRE vocabulary. After you memorize a good chunk of GRE vocabulary, and I'm talking about like 700, 800 words, you're going to ascend to the state where words start blending together because you've memorized so many words with similar meanings, and this can get very tricky. So my next pro tip is, once you get to this point, start making synonym lists. Synonym lists are super duper helpful, especially when you're answering sentence equivalence questions, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean. So over here I have a flashcard which was one of my many synonym lists, and the first word I have written down is esoteric, and I've written after it arcane, abstruse, recondite, obscure, because all of these words mean a very similar meaning. At first, I did this exercise just to group words together in my brain so that I was associating them with one another, engaging with them more for better memorization. But soon after, I realized that this was extremely helpful when I was answering sentence equivalence questions, because I would often see these synonyms that I have written down appear in the same question for sentence equivalence. And I could answer them super fast without doubting myself, and it just made the vocabulary section a lot easier and a lot less frightening for me. So other than the words we learn through flashcards, a lot of the times we also come across words on practice tests that we want to keep note of. So what I did when I came across these words was I would take a sheet of paper, I would fold it in half, and on one side I'd write down the words that I wanted to learn, and on the other side their definitions. So I'd memorize it like this, kind of test myself, flipping it back and forth. I have quite a few of these papers, but they're super duper handy and easy to put in your bag if you're going somewhere, so you can just whip it out and memorize or review the words as you like. So highly recommend as well. Moving on, we have the reading comprehension section. And I'm going to be fairly honest with you guys. When people ask me how to get a higher score on the reading comprehension section, the first thing I always tell them is to read more. Reading is something you cannot cheat your way around. You need to take the time exposing yourself to various genres of books, allowing yourself to have experience, understanding written information. So the first thing you want to do when you're studying for the GRE is make sure you're reading more. But other than that very, very obvious tip, I have 3 pro tips that I'd like to share with you guys when it comes to answering the specific GRE reading comprehension questions. My first tip is to always practice active reading. So on the GRE, they often like to put in these passages that are very difficult to read or extremely complicated. So if you're not paying attention and you're just skimming through the passage half-heartedly, it's very easy to get lost in between the words. So always make sure that you're actively engaging with the content, asking yourself, what does the paragraph that I just read mean? How does it connect to the next paragraph? Is the next paragraph rebuttaling the first idea, or is it building on top of it? Always be engaging and be intentional when you're reading GRE passages. This is the most important when you're faced with a long passage with multiple paragraphs. So what I like to do when I'm faced with a long passage is every time I finish just one paragraph, I think to myself, what have I just digested? What is this paragraph trying to convey? What's the main idea? And when I make sure that I have it down and I'm clear on what this paragraph means, then I will move forward to the next paragraph. When it comes to actually answering the questions, my number 1 tip is always ignore the answers. Now, that might sound a little bit weird, so let me elaborate. It's super important to remember that when you're doing the GRE reading comprehension questions, 4 out of the 5 answer choices provided by GRE are wrong. So you do not want to be misguided by these wrong answer choices. The first thing you want to do when you're answering these reading comprehension questions is to read the question clearly, go back to the paragraph or the section of the passage that the question is referring to. Now, after you find the details, try to come up with an answer in your head. It might be very rough, it might not be very complete, but then after you have that mental answer, go to the answer choices provided by GRE and start skimming through and see which one is more similar to your understanding. Trust your understanding of the passage and your ability to answer the question, because a lot of students, when they start reading A, B, C, D, E answer choices, they get misguided and start getting confused about the details and lost within the answer choices. So you don't want to do that. Make sure you're coming up with your own answer before going to the answer choices. My last pro tip for the GRE Reading Comprehension section is answer choices that seem 99% correct are still incorrect. So the GRE likes to place a lot of little traps in the answer choices for reading comprehension. And I cannot tell you guys how many times I've fallen for these tricks and these traps. So always make sure to remind yourself that partially correct answers are still incorrect. If answer choice A seems to only partially answer the question, then move on to answer choice B. Never settle when it comes to answer choices. And that might seem like a very simple idea, but a lot of students, when they're really focused on answering these questions and doing the test, tend to forget. So make sure to remind yourself of this when you're doing practice tests or on the actual exam day. So that concludes all of my tips and tricks when it comes to the GRE Verbal Reasoning section. Like always, I hope you guys found it helpful, and if you have any questions or comments, make sure to place them down below in the comments section. If you're interested to learn more about how I studied for the GRE exam or the study resources that I used to study for this test, I will have my previous GRE prep video linked up here and also in the description box, as well as all of my study materials. So make sure to check them out. With that said, wishing you guys all the best on your upcoming GRE exam, and please subscribe to stick around for my upcoming GRE content, and I will see you guys in the next one.